the work of an Iowa-based organization bailing out Benji kind of helped spark this investigation. Can you tell me about that?
That resolution filed in King County Superior Court requires the company to pay the state $3.75 million with interest.
Bailing out Benji regularly looks through these records of dogs' movement from state to state.
Bailing out Benji
played a key part in unraveling a nationwide puppy scheme.
Bailing out Benji,
an organization that's been working across the country to stop the pipeline of puppy mill breeders.
Bailing out Benji.
I will use my voice because it will come out, and I will keep doing it until there are no more puppy mill dogs. Hey everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Truth, Lies, and Puppy Mills, Bailing Out Benji's original podcast. I'm Mindy, and I'm here with Kristen and Alexis today, and we are going to talk more about visiting USDA kennels and everything we've learned from that. So we're really excited to keep the conversation going.
I guess where to start off.
Yeah, how do you feel about how weird has it been being invited into kennels?
Yeah, it's been a little weird, I guess. It's not something that, I mean, when I first started working here, that I thought would be in the scope of what we do. And so this has been a really interesting experience, especially coming in with, like, I have an animal science background. That's what I studied in school. And so companion animal science is something that I've always studied. So taking this job, I didn't exactly think that we would get hands-on experience. And so it's been really fun to apply my knowledge from school to like what we're seeing in these kennels, and being able to talk about it and just see that experience that I just didn't think we'd be able to do. I thought we were paperwork girlies, the computer girlies, but now we're field research girlies.
Now we're put on the medical booties.
Yes. Yeah.
Follow all the quarantine procedures as you go into the places. It's so weird.
It is weird.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
When you talked about when you started, you didn't think that would be something that would be part of the scope of the job.
Yeah.
Is that because, like you said, you thought like this is just research, this is just looking at paper and making determinations, or was it because that was not something you were interested in? Like, I do not want to see that side of it. I don't want to go there. I'm just going to stay behind the computer.
Yeah, I guess it's more of the realm of like what the animal welfare landscape looked like versus like the industry side. At least to my understanding of, I thought like animal welfare groups and like the industry side were just very separate, and that's just not something that we would be invited to or get the opportunity to do, because we are more of like the research people and we didn't have the connections that we do now to the industry side. And so I think from my perspective, it was just something like, oh, we're like outside observers. Sometimes we get to go in, because I mean, I've been to like dog auctions, or I've been to some properties to help pick up dogs that were being surrendered, and I thought, well, that's probably the realm of where we'd be is maybe helping with that. But I didn't actually think that we'd get tours, like that we would get the invite into these commercial kennels. I guess to like puppy mills aren't inviting us there. That's not I knew that for sure that would not be a thing, but I guess I didn't put much thought into like, would we be invited to just see a commercial kennel? But I thought probably not, because of what the landscape of animal welfare groups versus industry kind of looked like.
Like our lens was rescue.
Yes.
So when you said you went to the dog auction, you weren't there to buy.
No.
You were there to observe.
Yep.
You had never seen a dog auction, which is horrifying on its own. It's a very gross part of the puppy mill industry. I see your face, Kristen.
Yeah, I've never been.
No. I don't recommend going, but Alexis and Rosie did go down because we were tracking Steve Cruzy and like him selling dogs while he was under suspension. And so they went down and observed what was going on.
Yeah.
So we could file complaints and everything. So it was a really important field research part of what we do without even calling it that at first.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then like our lens has always been that rescue side.
Mm-hmm.
And now we get to use our advocacy side and our educational side to go into the kennels and have conversations with breeders that we never dreamed of having.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm most excited about the rehoming conversations we get to have. Like they do ask us our opinions too. We're not going in to just give them a rubber stamp of approval.
No. Yeah. I think that's one thing that has been surprising about this experience is how open to conversations and questions everyone everyone has been when we have gone to these kennels, especially like the Indiana ones. They were like so willing to give information, and at that time, like, we all didn't know what to think of each other, so of course, like, you want to share as much as possible to maybe like explain your point of view. But it's really been easygoing conversations, and it is kind of that, like, we're all learning when we go to these kennels. Like, they do want to hear from us, and we want to hear from them. So I think that has been something that has been surprising and great about this experience is the conversations we're able to have, for sure.
And it's none of us trust each other, but we all trust each other because we're in this weird, like, gray area where now we've kind of, all of us have ostracized ourselves almost.
Yeah.
As we're trying to forge a new path. But I mean, there was a broker who handed us a stack of 50 pages, and he's like, this is how transparent I want to be for you all.
Yeah.
And whether or not you approve with dog brokering or anything that entails, I thought that was really cool that he just told his manager, hey, print that paperwork and send it on over to Mindy, so we could examine it. And it was just kind of I don't know, showed me that we're all trying to trust each other, I guess.
Making an effort.
Yeah, a good show of faith in the work that's being done. I think for so long things have been really polarized between our two groups. So I think we've become a lot more neutral in this space. And so it is nice to kind of like have those little olive branches, because we really want to learn and we want to grow and evolve. And I think that's something as an organization we've really focused on in the past couple of years. And so having people give us information so freely and us being like open to like at least seeing these facilities and not coming from like a place of judgment, just coming there with an open mind to learn, I think also helps along that conversation and bridging the gaps between the polarization that we've seen in our industries.
Yeah, and the word neutrality, neutral, kind of stuck out to me because we're not necessarily neutral, right? Like, we're still very anti-puppy mill and very anti-cruelty.
Yeah.
We've just now learned that there are also people in the dog breeding world that are also anti-puppy mill. Yeah. And it is beyond the responsible breeder that we've always heard from and the preservation breeder that we've always heard from, that they hate puppy mills too.
Yeah.
So hearing that people who do it on a larger scale have standards, they're trying to set themselves apart, has kind of been eye-opening.
Yeah.
The impression I get is in the community of the work that we do, we might be as close to neutral as any group in that's doing work with puppy mills and breeders right now. Like, we're about as close as, you know, so when you're talking about extending that olive branch, we might feel the safest at the moment to do that too. Per usual, I just like launched right in with a question for Alexis. Should we like roll back and talk a little bit about, in case this is someone's first episode, just, I mean, obviously we've been talking about field research, but should we just do a little recap really quick about how did this come about? How did you get invited to come to this breeding facility when you first went out?
The first invite came from the Canine Care Program, came from Dr. Candace Croney, and then that was when we were there. It was a year ago. Actually, this week that we're recording is our year anniversary officially. I know, it is wild.
Yeah.
Like, and
does it feel longer or shorter? Does it feel like that was yesterday, or is that like,
It feels longer.
10 years ago?
It feels like the visit was yesterday.
That's fair.
It feels like everything else has been years and
That's
years
what
and
made it
years.
feel longer, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so everyone was the first time we went, the people who were questioning why we would even go, they were very much like, well, why the Indiana focus? Why aren't you going to Iowa? You live in Iowa. And so Alexis and I, after visiting Indiana, we had to figure out how to keep growing trust across the country, because you know, one community in Indiana opened their doors and then a second community in Indiana opened their doors, it didn't mean necessarily that people in other states were like, we trust bailing out Benji. So the work had to begin by having phone calls with people in our community and getting to know them so they would trust us to invite us into more facilities. So it's a lot of bridge building. It's a lot of trust. But again, it's that weird, like, I've talked to people who we've both spoken poorly about each other in the past. And what we say is, well, it doesn't matter anymore. What we said before we met, we can't help, right? Like, you just can't help. You can't fix the past. But now that we're on this journey together, we are assuming positive intent, and we're trying our hardest to just move forward in a way that is intentional with the other person's perspective in mind.
Yeah.
And that's hard. It's very challenging to try and make sure our work we have to view it through so many lenses now before we release or publish anything, which is responsible and ethical, and I'm happy we're doing it.
Same. It's fair too, because with more information, like perspective changes. And as a research-focused organization, it's very important for us to be open to finding all facts, even if that doesn't fit the current narrative or something that's being told year after year for the past few decades, because we really we want to find the truth. We want to find out the full scope of the issue. And so it does require us to be open-minded, to be open to these conversations and following where the research takes us, like our field research, which we didn't know was going to take us there before. But bringing transparency to the public is also our main focus. So it would be, what's the word I'm looking for? Irresponsible of us as an authority in like research and information to not go and visit these places, and to not accurately report on them, because like we can't skew the data. And I think you mentioned in the last episode too, people lose faith in you. Like if they have a different experience than what you're telling them it is, like then they lose faith in us. And that's a big hit to a research-focused organization, because everything we do afterwards would not be credible. So we can't retract what we've said about these facilities, because we were just telling the truth. We were just saying it as it was, and that's what our field research is showing. So we're going to continue to be honest, even if some people don't like the narrative. But it seems that the general public has been pretty well at receiving this information, and they can see it with their own eyes too. So it's important how we report this.
Yeah, and feel free to like say if you disagree or not with this, but I feel like I went back and I read through our old posts. We've listened to the webinar again. Anything out there publicly about our visits, I reread or re-listened to in preparation for this. And we leaned heavily on this was our experience, and we are happy that there are Amish breeding facilities that aren't doing better. And the vitriol we received was wild. And I think that almost caused us to go 10 toes down. I feel like if maybe our advocate friends would have been a little more open-minded, we wouldn't have rushed all these conversations. I don't know if I feel rushed about it. But I feel like once we hit a hard wall and people were like, are you literally trying to tell me that these Amish breeders aren't puppy mills? And I'm like, yes, that's the only thing we're trying to tell you. Thank you for getting to the point. It was such a weird time that we were like, okay, well, now we are going to make this our personality a little bit for a second and tell you all of the things we're learning, because clearly you're going to make up your own narrative.
I think the reaction dictated that. If the reaction had been like, well, yeah, of course, not everyone's a puppy mill, or not every breeder has bad intentions, then we're like, okay, yeah, we're all on the same page, great. But when you realize that amount of pushback, like, wow, we have got a lot more education to do and a lot more pushing that border just a little bit further of like, come on, friends, join us.
And the more we talked about it, the more that pushback got louder, which was the hard part, because we're trying to educate, we're trying to change minds. We're not selling you anything. We're not making any money off of any of this work. It costs us money to go visit the breeders. And we've visited in 3 states now, hopefully more soon. So it's just, we're relaying the information that we've seen.
But we've also learned, in spite of the loud voices, there are some very quiet voices out there who are on board, who are saying, yes, we see what you're doing. We've seen it too in our communities. Keep going. And that's been nice on the heels of the loud voices.
And specifically, it's like the boots on the ground rescues in the Midwest that we hear from that are like, yes, I was getting dogs from puppy mills, and now I am getting not rescue dogs surrendered from breeders who just need help finding homes. So they were getting the cruel and inhumane, dogs that we see on Facebook, the ones that do need rescued, and now they're seeing progress. So they're also kind of sharing that with us in safe ways that they can't go public with yet.
And it's the boots on the ground. They're going into those facilities like you did, and then you saw the same. And when you were talking about, like we do research, never thought we would be able to go into those areas. I was trying to think of like, in what other industry, and I'm sure there are some, but like where else do you hear about someone whose job is to research something, but they don't have access to the thing?
Yeah,
like
that's true.
we're researching breeding and puppy mills, but we don't have access to actually see them.
Yeah.
We're just reading about them.
Right. We're looking through the windows, right?
Yeah.
And then we're painting narratives,
Yeah.
and we're coming up with false data, data that supports whatever narratives we are pushing. And then that's kind of been the lay of the land until now. With our database, we can actually come up with measurable numbers that will track progress across breeding communities, across states, across the nation. Like, we can come up with measurable numbers, and that's not ever happened before. But in what industry do you not have measurables? Can you not track progress? This is kind of the one part of animal welfare where you're not tracking progress.
Yeah, and then when we start to see some progress, it's not received well.
Kind of feels like we move the bar a little bit, but as you've said, like, we've been asking for these changes, and why are we upset when we do see the change? And from the people that, like, probably have the most influence, the people closest to it. Like, people talk about, like, you can't just come into a community and, like, make them change things. Like, I think community has to be inspired to change, and that's what's also been so great, because that's the most effective change that could ever happen, is that they're choosing to do this rather than being forced. So that's another thing that has been very exciting about this field research, is to see how many people are so passionate about their dogs, passionate about making environmental improvements for them, or socialization improvements, or thinking about their life in the future. Like, that's amazing. That's not what we've been told that facilities are doing, or that we would associate puppy mills not doing. So that has been pretty good as well.
Yeah, and the conversations we have been wild. So like, when we went to Bloomfield, Iowa a few weeks ago, and we were invited down by a broker down there. He was very kind to organize this whole thing. Actually, a veterinarian that we met in Indiana helped organize it. We were supposed to be a part of this, like, OFA clinic, so we could see the breeders. Yeah.
What's OFA?
I think this testing is just, like, specifically for a breed. Like, if they're more prone to something, this is what you should test for. Like, if, like, German Shepherds, I think, have, like, bad legs, right? So they test for bad hips. Yeah, so they test for something like that. And so OFA testing is that genetic testing to ensure that they don't have that, like, predisposition to that disease or illness or something that goes wrong in their breed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so then the puppies are healthier. So we were at first invited to participate in this 3-day clinic. We were super excited about it. The hosting agency is one of the largest registries in the country. I won't name drop them today, but they were not happy. When they heard Bailing Out Benji was going to be at this OFA clinic, they were like, no, absolutely not. And if they come, we're not sponsoring it anymore. So the veterinarian and the broker, they redid all of their schedules and still made it so we could go down and see a little half a day tour where we could drive to some facilities and talk to breeders. But after all of that, Alexis and I were tired. We were told, like, hey, let's go grab dinner. Every time we go to these communities, grabbing dinner turns out to be like a 2-hour conversation with like 20 breeders, because more people keep coming. They hear we're there. They want to have a conversation, and whether or not we had been to their facility and saw it in person yet, they still showed up to dinner to ask questions and get to know us. And
do they want to so ask questions, get to know? Are they asking questions? Are they trying to kind of plead their case? Are they trying to, like, let us tell you what we're doing? Or are they really trying to get to know more about what you're trying to do? Or why do you think 20 breeders are showing up when they hear Bailing Out Benji's in town?
Part of it is probably a little bit of a circus act, right?
Yeah, the novelty, of course.
Right. Like,
they're so disappointed when they meet you and Alexis.
No.
Could not be less of a circus. I mean, if you're going for the circus vibe, like these mean people who have been researching our industry and trying to shut us down. And
that is something that they reference.
The two of you.
Yeah, well, they've seen our website, and they have questions about, like, our social media or things that we've said in the past. So I think it is time. It's for, like, clarity, showing up for, like, some clarity, like, hey, what are the intentions? But also, we are curious about both sides, because we've never had the opportunity to have these conversations. So I think that's part of it.
But yeah, like, also, it's just, they ask us, do we hate pet stores? Is it ever okay for puppies to be sold in stores? What happens if our puppies are sold in stores? Are we puppy mills? And so we get to say things like, well, just because, the conversation has always been pet store puppies come from puppy mills. Well, now that some breeders are fixing that part of the problem, we've been able to have great conversations with those breeders to say, okay, but now you should put pressure on the stores. If your puppies are phenomenal and they're coming from great kennels, it is your job now as the producer of that product. I don't believe dogs are products, but in this world, if you're the producer of those puppies and you're selling to a pet store and they're buying from the worst puppy mill in the country, that is on you to say, I don't want my dogs for sale in the same store as that horrific puppy mill. Because your puppies are going to be puppy mill puppies too if they're next to a puppy mill puppy, right? Like the public doesn't differentiate. And so until we start putting pressure on the stores in different ways, then we're not really going to see a whole lot of change. And so we're able to have meaningful conversations with breeders about the realities of pet stores, the predatory financing. They cannot believe how much interest rates are going for these days. And 200% interest on a puppy is wild. And then this is the first time too, they also heard that some stores sell their puppies for $10,000 a piece. They're not getting $10,000 a piece for the puppy that they sold. They're getting less than $1,000. Usually it's around $500. And so when we're talking to these breeders, we're also enlightening them to a side of the world that they don't know. And we're empowering them to choose better partners in the future, better business partners. And I think that's like the long goal, right? We want to make sure that everyone is continuing this progress and it doesn't stop at the kennel doors. So when we talk about canine care puppies, if we care about socialization, then you should also care about socialization when the puppy gets to the store. And if that store is allowing that puppy to live in a glass box, no socialization, no toys, no fun walks or nothing, then all of your training, all of that is stunted because of that pet store 2-3 weeks that the puppy is there.
I think something you mentioned in some of these conversations is like that these breeders do have so much pride in what they're doing, and that like the pet store should also continue that pride, because if they're putting so much and investing so much into caring for their dogs, that should be continued by the pet store, not diminished because of the practices that the pet store is choosing to have.
And this is where I go to the importance of teaching consumers as well, because as much as we don't want to think about dogs as products, this is a consumer industry. This is consumers wanting to buy a dog. And when you've got better breeding selling to that puppy store, now the dog I'm buying is healthier. But if they're also buying from these awful puppy mills, so if I'm selling a bad product, and locally in my town, I was at the Pet Expo in Flint, and so many people that came to our table. There was one store they all mentioned. It is notorious in this community. That's going to be your reputation as a store. And yeah, you're still going to sell dogs because some people don't care. But that's your reputation. If your reputation shifts and now all of a sudden you're getting all of these success stories from people who are buying from your store, not stories of sick dogs and injured dogs and behavior issue dogs, but now the stories coming out of the store is like, I just bought the best dog. It was socialized, it was playful, it's healthy. That's going to put pressure on those stores to be better as well. And all of that is going to come from breeders, like you said, saying, I'm not selling my dog in a store if you're also selling dogs from this breeder. And it's going to come from consumers saying, I'm not buying from that store because they sell unhealthy dogs. The parents are not treated well. There's no transparency. Why would I go there?
But those are changes the industry has to make, right? Like we can have discussions and we can try to inspire them, but the industry has to acknowledge what the problem is and then evolve to do better. And it's not just the stores. The breeders need to make sure they're selling to brokers who aren't buying from puppy mills. They're not putting their puppies in a transport van with puppies that came from puppy mills. Like there are still so many issues with this that we have a lot of room for growth. And that's why I just don't understand why this is so scary for people, right? We can acknowledge the good and still focus on what we need to adjust and keep, fixing. We've been to 3 dog brokers. which is a sentence I never thought I would have said in my entire life.
Yeah.
We've now been to 3 dog brokers in 3 states, Indiana, Iowa, and Missouri. The order of them, I kind of wish we saw differently just because of the first one we saw, I really enjoyed, but we had no context. We had never been. I find it interesting in the larger conversation of the industry fixing itself. It has been interesting to talk to the brokers about what they hear as our issues. The first place we went last year, they were showing us their transport vans, and they were like, look, everything snaps together and everything comes out. And it was like a big puzzle, and they were so proud of their transport vans. We were, I don't want to say unimpressed, but we were like, oh, that's great. Thank you. Now we want to go inside and see the puppies. They started showing us that van first, but they had solved a problem, because most transport vehicles, you see kennels in there 24/7. They're stationed in there, and then you have to do all the cleaning in there, which isn't helpful for like disease spread. You have to be very, very thorough when you clean. So them being so proud of these kennels that they take out every night, they unsnap, and then they put it back together when it's clean. That was an interesting part of what we saw. And then in Iowa, that broker was focused on trying to limit the amount of time a puppy was even at his place. So one of our biggest conversations is, well, the puppy leaves its mom, it's at the broker for a week, then it has to be transported 20 hours to a pet store. So this broker was trying to figure out, what does that look like to keep the dogs at my place for less than a day? How can we limit the stress on the dog? How can they spend more time with their parents before they move on to their next destination? And again, not a perfect system, but it's so interesting to hear how they think they can solve problems that they're hearing from our community.
Yeah. And it shows a great sign too that they are willing to make these changes and that they're so dedicated to finding a solution. I think that's something we strive for, is like, we're not striving for perfection, but progress right now, because I mean, so far off to be in, I think, a perfect world that people want like no puppy mills. Like, that's not realistically going to happen in the next decade or 2, probably 3, maybe, I don't know. But it is a good sign, I think, that we can see progress from commercial breeding facilities and from brokers, because as the world exists, those two exist now. So what's being done to make sure that they're operating at their most humane, at their best? So it is a good sign to me that that's happening.
It feels like so much of it is breaking down those communication barriers. Like,
Yeah.
it almost, like, sometimes, when you talk about talking to breeders about what pet stores are doing, it kind of feels like we're like telling people's secrets, like, oh, did you know that they're doing this? But it's communication, and it's breaking down those barriers so that each of the parties here knows how the entire system is working, and then you can make better educated decisions about how to run your segment of the operation, knowing how the others, and how to work together for the brokers to work with their transport, to work with the breeders, to be able to get the dogs out faster. Like, it just makes so much sense. It feels like common sense
like
to me.
when we're not in silos, we make more progress. Yeah.
Groundbreaking.
Yeah.
But that's what it's all about. Like, we are not sold on this industry.
Right.
No.
We acknowledge that this is an imperfect system, and we are working within that system to create as much change as we can.
Yeah.
So this is just one tool in the toolbox, and people aren't necessarily ready for that tool, but I think it'll be so powerful. I truly do.
Yeah, it's incremental change.
So we don't have any trips on our horizon yet.
Not yet.
What is your most memorable moment, do you think, from visiting?
Probably, I think it was our Indiana trip. No surprise, you're probably going to know where I'm going with this, but when we went to a facility of someone named Marty, and he had all of these little dogs, and they were in the play yard. And before we had gone in, he had said like, oh, his son's helped with like the socialization of the dogs. And you're like, oh, okay, that's neat. That's pretty neat. And then you go out to the yard and you have all of these little fluffy dogs just like going all over your lap. They want to sit in your lap. They want to play. And they'd come up for treats and stuff, but they would stay with you and they'd want to sit in your lap and play with you. And I think that's the most memorable experience to me, because it was like not only our first experiences going into commercial breeding facilities, but also to see that this is not a puppy mill. This is somewhere that like really cares for their dogs. The whole family's involved, and that it really shows. The care really shows through the dogs. And I think that's why we always say like, show me the mommy, or like go to the facility and see, because when you see it with your own eyes and you experience it and you feel the happiness that I felt sitting in that yard with all those puppies, and a little golden poodle too, who was my favorite. She was cute. It's, you can't think that that's a puppy mill, and you feel better that, like, well, some people may not agree on breeding. They may not agree on the scale of breeding, but when it boils down to it, what we really, really care about is that those animals are being treated humanely, that they're being taken care of. And I think that was just a great assurance that, like, all of that was happening, that there had been such wonderful progress. And all of these puppies and dogs, like, they just seemed so happy and they wanted to interact with me. And they were like dogs. They weren't puppy mill dogs that are scared of people. They don't want you to touch them. They were just so interactive and happy that you were there and just to be with you. So I think that's all that people want from a companion animal, right? Is like someone to love and that loves you back and that you're happy to be with. And they were just really loving, happy dogs, and that really showed. So the care that they took at that facility is leaving a lasting impression in my brain. And that's what I go back to a lot when I think about the facilities that we're going to. And that is one that I use as a comparison to other facilities, because I think it was an exceptional facility.
And I think before a year ago, if I had said, what is your most memorable experience from being at a breeder site, it would have been a very different story.
Yeah.
It would have been to Steve Cruzy's property.
Yeah. I drove a dog home that spun circles the entire time. And that's what she did for most of her life until Rosie was able to help socialize her. But yeah, that was my image of dogs with long nails, matted fur, spinning in circles. So this was definitely a shocking relief to know that a commercial breeding facility, as they exist, can't exist like this. They don't have to be a puppy
They
mill.
don't have to be inhumane.
Yeah, they don't have to be
And
inhumane.
that's the largest message we can send to anyone.
Yeah.
Whether you I don't want to say whether you have 1,000 dogs or not, Steve Cruzy, you could still put your profits into your dogs and have them live a nice, humane life while they're in your care. The breeders who are choosing not to, they're our focus. That's who we need to be paying attention to, and that's who we need to be putting pressure on to do better. And when we're talking in this space about the breeders we visited and the hope we have, we visited like 20, right? There are over 4,000 breeding facilities we're tracking at this point. So this is a small drop in the bucket. That doesn't mean there aren't a lot more facilities that are doing better. That just means that we're acknowledging some places are doing better. So hopefully more can and will choose to. But
what was your most memorable experience?
Going to Missouri. And we stayed with a dog broker. We did. It was very kind of them. They had a house on their facility it's interesting. They let us stay on their property with no one else around, which shows trust. Like no supervision. But they did. They had like a little like house that their workers could stay at if needed. So our team, we had 4 of us. We were all able to stay there so we could buy our own food. We could do our own cooking if needed, have our own breakfast. But just being in Missouri on the property of one of the most notorious dog brokers, that, it was so weird.
Yeah, definitely not something you thought you'd be doing when you started doing it.
No. And the most exciting is weird to say, but like he was a normal dude. Like he smokes cigarettes. He has sons. He has a family. He has employees who matter. Like whether or not I agreed with what he does, not the idea of it, whatever you want to say, like that, all of that aside, he was very kind. He was very transparent. He showed us every inch of his facility. And we were essentially, I don't want to say we were employees for 3 days, but we were kind of we were on a field trip. And anything the employees did, we did. We got to see what they call puppy buy day. So we saw all of the breeders dropping off their puppies. We saw them getting examined by a vet. We were right there at the computer as they're typing in the stuff the vet is saying. So we got to ask, okay, well, that dog has a luxating patella grade 1. Is that okay? Like, why are you sending that puppy out? We were able to ask all of the CVI questions we had, all of the health questions we had. So again, whether or not you agree with brokering, it was so kind and showed an extreme amount of trust for this person to just let us be there for 3 days and see anything we saw. So, but did you like the vet side of it? Like, that was so
I
weird.
did, yeah, because like all we see is like the CBI stuff.
Yeah.
And so it was nice to get like some background on that. So like next time we get to look at the CBIs, we're like, oh, well, that's what's been so neat about meeting that vet. And then the other vet from Indiana, who let us join onto the trip in Iowa, is learning and hearing from them like what things mean, or how's it working in the industry side, something that we don't really know about unless it's put on a paper, and then like we can make our own assumptions about it or like our own research behind it. But hearing it directly from vets was definitely interesting, for sure.
Yeah. So, and we've had offers to hop on transport vans and make puppy deliveries. We have not taken anyone up on those. But we've just had offers, and the offers come with no strings attached, right? Like we all are doing this with respect. So they know that the way that we're going to speak about our experiences is honest, but with kindness. We're not here to trash anybody. Whether or not, again, you agree with what's going on, you can acknowledge. One of the phrases that I learned forever ago was, be kind to people, be ruthless to systems. And I wish I could like get that tattooed on my forehead so everybody had to.
I'm not going to let you do that.
Why?
I'll cross-stitch you a pillow.
Not the forehead, but
Not
maybe
the forehead.
an arm.
Fine, but like that's what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
The system is cruel and inhumane.
Yeah.
The people involved are not. And so how do we rectify that, and how do we make it work for the dogs and the people buying the puppies? So, Kristen, do you have any other questions? Do you want to go on a field research?
I do.
trip?
I do.
Yeah.
When I first started, you will remember I said, I will take this job, but I will not look at the pictures you all look at. I do not want to hear the stories that you all, when you go out to these places, I don't want to hear about it. Don't talk to me about it. I cannot handle it.
But then we come back
But
and we're
now
so excited.
I'm like, I want to go play with the puppies. No, I just think I again, starting the podcast like right off the bat with the question. I always have questions, and I'm always curious about things. And it's just so hard to imagine the work that you do, but being so like you said, siloed away from it. Like to not be able to see the full picture has got to feel so restricting, and to be able to get out and ask those questions and have full access and just get that information and see for yourself has to just be very rewarding and eye-opening. And I hope we get the chance to do more of that kind of stuff, just to build that knowledge and build those connections, and keep sharing that communication.
Right. No, I'm excited. We are going to do more things like this. Our journey is not over unless we somehow get uninvited from everywhere, which our whole, like truly going into this, we were like, we're just going to keep saying yes until they stop inviting us, because we don't know how long our goodwill is going to last. It takes one person to be mad and, trash our name or whatever. So we're here for the yes. We're here to experience it and see what's happening. And then we get to bring this knowledge back to apply it to our work. And I think that's the even more important part, is when we come back and have those conversations about being intentional. It's completely changed our perspective and the way we communicate to the public. And I love that.
You mentioned earlier, like our focus is and will be on puppy mills and on inhumane breeding. So just because we're being invited into these places and we're seeing these changes does not mean that we're like, oh, we don't care about puppy mills anymore. Now we're going to focus on this segment over here. That's not at all what's happening. That segment is giving us the hope to keep working on the puppy mill side and to keep focusing on that. So like, don't let it get confused. Like that's still our main focus. That's still our mission.
It's like, also, what's the other phrase Jacob has mentioned? Like, don't fall in love with the solution, or
don't fall in love with your solution, fall in love with ending the solution or ending the problem.
So with that, like, there's so many angles to come at the puppy mill issue. And I mean, I think how we've come to see it is like the canine care program, they're finding their own way to try and fix it. And then we're working our own way with the research to fix it by filing our complaints, being the watchdog group that we are. So it is great to have all of those angles actually covered, because we can't be siloed. We can't just have one like goal, or maybe you can only focus on one goal. So then it is nice to reach out and have partnerships with other people who are focusing on other angles, because the puppy mill issue is a very large issue, and it's going to take a lot more of us coming to the table authentically to solve it. So it is nice to know that we don't have to worry about that angle. That's something we can do our work, they can do their work within their community, and we're all still trying to end puppy mills.
And I feel like maybe that's part of the pushback, or part of some of the negativity that we've gotten, is not recognizing that just because we're doing it this way does not negate what you're doing, and just because we're saying this does not make what you're saying wrong. Like, there's a lot of work to be done, and there's a lot of different paths to get to the solution. We're working on this one. It doesn't negate the work anyone else is doing. This is our story. This is our journey.
And it's okay to change tactics. When something's not working, you have to move forward. You can't just keep working it till it's like, I don't know, it's not working. So yeah, it's important to evolve, important to open yourself up to what's happening.
Well, and we kind of realized a few months ago, a year ago, I don't know, years ago, recently, that the tactic to educate the advocates is really just to train advocates to pass ordinances. Like, that has been how nationally animal advocates have been trained to talk about puppy mills. The training is tied in with passing ordinances or passing policy, so that didn't lend for good conversation about the nuances, and it didn't lend for any actual data that points to where the problems are and might not be. So we're really excited to also be bringing that into the conversation, because that's what we're prepped to do. We are so prepped to give you any statistics or data you want on this industry, and we have the most conclusive data out there. The last year, people realized how many cards we're holding.
Oh yeah.
We were ignored. We were treated as the little kids at the table for a long time. And finally, we kind of just said, here we are, and here's what we're doing. And it made a lot of people take notice.
So I think some people have made some changes as well, without directly saying, but yeah.
Well, even the USDA, we've been filing a lot of complaints lately because of our online sleuth project, which we need to do a whole deep dive into. That'll be fun. But we've been filing complaints lately, and we are hearing from the USDA within days of our complaint now. And
They're
that
so
is
responsive.
So responsive. We are getting, hey, here's your tracking number. You can file your FOIA in 30 days. Like, they're actually acknowledging our complaints, and that was very hit or miss in the past. So we made the joke that maybe we're flagged in their system now. Because when we file complaints, we're not saying the neighbor down the road's barking, we think they have a puppy mill. We present a case to them, and we tell them what evidence we have. We file the complaints through the proper channels, and it's just wild that now they are actually responding. I hope that they do follow through and license the people that we have flagged for them, but it's just another little sign of hope, right? That maybe the USDA is acknowledging we know more than they ever thought we did. We are not an enemy. We're trying to be a resource. We're trying to help bring these people into compliance, because I want the government, I want someone to know what they're doing, right?
And not from the approach of attacking the USDA, saying, why aren't you doing your jobs? Saying, we understand, let us help.
And the USDA isn't getting CVIs from the different states. They're not doing the paperwork part that we do. So we are just additional eyes for them across the country. So, but it's been, I don't know, it's been a really fun year. Fun, quote unquote.
Fun, scary,
fun.
Scary fun,
Challenging. We've grown a lot. But yeah, I am excited to keep it going.
Me too. I'm proud of the growth that we've had. I'm proud of the public response, whereas we might have gotten some pushback from certain organizations and certain people. I do think that the vast majority of people are trusting in our research, are trusting in the things that we're telling them. And for every negative comment, there's 10 more positives. So I do have faith in that, at least the general public, or the smaller people at the table who may have not thought that I had a voice at this table. We're all coming together and realizing, it's okay to evolve, and it's okay to change your opinion. And it's okay to accept that this is a good change, and it's a good path that's been started.
And I think for us, part of the lesson was learning which voices are I don't know if important is the right word, but which voices we should be listening to.
Yeah.
Which ones we should amplify.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That's been the conversation
Yeah. And
for
initially
years.
that pushback felt like, like suffocating. Oh my gosh. And then you start to gain that perspective of, okay, wait, I hear these voices over here being upset, but I hear these whispers over here.
Yeah.
Like, that's the voice we need to be listening to. These are the voices on the ground in the arena, if you will. That so a little bit of that training on, those voices are loud, but we're not listening to those voices. That's
right. Yeah. Well, and we probably surprised everyone on both sides of the industry this week by releasing our search engine.
Yes.
We had something like it that was outdated from like 5 or 6, 7 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
We haven't had a search engine for the public in a long time, and we just released this big thing that's been viewed how many times? In 48 hours, it was like thousands on our website.
Thousands. And you can see that people are using it. So that's a fun part to see on the back end of the program, is to see that it's a useful tool for people. And not only like we are getting people's like comments on our posts and stuff like, oh, this is so amazing. Like, this is so helpful. Thank you so much for all your work. And oh my gosh, that must have taken so much work. Yes, it did.
It can confirm.
It can confirm. A lot of time, a lot of resources. But it is quite rewarding to put out this unique piece of information, this tool for people that really nobody else can at the moment. So it is great that feedback has been so amazing.
Overwhelmingly positive. I asked yesterday, I think, have we gotten any negative pushback and I don't think we have.
I think I'm our biggest critic, to be honest. But no, everyone has really enjoyed it, and it's a tool for advocates. Like advocates, if they're, in a community with a store, and the store has disclosure laws, they can look up right away if the pet store is buying from breeders with violations. If the stores aren't supposed to be buying from breeders with violations, the consumers can check that right there. So it's such a wonderful tool for the public. I hope it gets out there more, but we keep seeing too on our end that people are following through. So they're searching for a breeder or for whatever reason. And then it says, like, if they have violations, click here to, learn more. People are not only coming to our website to learn more, they're clicking on the Iowa Department of Ag website to look up the inspection records themselves and the USDA. And that's what we want. Like, we could email these records to every single person who contacts us, but it's easier for you as the consumer. If we just give you all the tools, then you can do it yourself. And you don't have someone telling you what to think and telling you how to feel. We're giving you the guardrails that haven't existed ever until now.
And by the time this airs, that tool has been available for a couple of weeks. We kind of gave it out to our volunteers and said, play with this, give us feedback, and then we released it publicly. And so you've talked about kind of what it does, but just for a high level overview, if somebody is listening and they haven't seen the tool or used the tool. So it's a map. It's got lots of dots that show licensed breeders. There's a search engine where you can type in the name,
the
address,
name, not the address, the name, the kennel name, the license number,
the city. You can do like by city.
You could technically, there's like a different part of it. Like the search engine itself is for breeders. And then down at the bottom, you can type in a city and then it'll show you, but most people won't see that.
There's no like addresses attached to anything, so they can't really search that. So it would pull just from the name, the license number, and kennel name.
And then once you locate a kennel or a breeder, it shows you how many breeding animals they have. It shows you how many violations they've had.
If they sell online, if they sell through stores, we don't give a way to contact the breeders. It's not like a directory in the sense that you can contact to buy, but it's supposed to be a tool where the public can at least Google the breeder to see, oh, do you have a history of 40 violations? Maybe don't buy from them.
It's a base, like a little foundation they can start their research on and hopefully grow from it. Just a little bit easier, have it at their fingertips.
And it's exciting because some of the feedback we've gotten, people have been like, well, have you thought about this? And we're like, yes, actually, that's coming next. Like, we have so many more things that we want to do with it now that we have the technology. But like, shout out to Jim for creating this map, our volunteer from Wisconsin. Like, he took all of our data and that's his whole life is creating stuff like that for his job. So when he saw our little static maps, the little dots that we would literally put dots on a map for, he was like, we can do better. Let me help you do better.
Jelaine
was right.
Jelaine was just telling me about his onboarding call, and she said it was so cute because he was like, can I ask about your maps? And he was trying to be really delicate about like, can I help with your maps?
Yeah.
And we're so glad he did. Yes. I think one of the first things I said when I started here is like, we need some kind of a tool for consumers.
Yeah.
Funny, you should mention that.
And
now it's here.
The non-funny thing about this whole part of it, I think our website was hit like over 5,000 times in 48 hours. Yeah. Our donate link was clicked like 400 times in 48 hours. We received 5 donations. Five. The highest was $100, which wow, that's amazing. Thank you. But it's one of those things where it's like, so many people use that map. So many people thanked us and told us it was good. And I know that like the economy is hard and things are scary right now, but it was disheartening for us to put so much time and be so excited for this to be released and then not have people want to invest in that kind of work.
And we have a donate link on the map.
Everywhere on the map,
and we have, like you said, a lot of people commenting saying, oh my gosh, this must have been so much work. This must have taken you so much time. This is such a valuable tool. And like we kind of dance on this delicate balance of, we want our work to be out in the world, changing this for the better. We want to provide a way for advocates to look. We want to provide a way for consumers to be more educated. So what we do is getting this information out there. So on one hand, it's like, we're not doing this to make money off of it. On the other hand, it does take money, and it would be great to.
If people find, if people find the tool is useful and like they want to see more of this, because we've got lots of plans, we've got lots of data that we want to help bring to the public, but it does take funds. As we've said before, we're the smallest kids at the table. We're doing a lot with little resources, a small staff. Like, I mean, 2 of us only work research full time. So, it just, resources really matter to our small organization. So if people really like the work that we're doing and all the things that we're trying to provide to the public, like it would be so nice to have a little bit back so that we can do more and provide more to people.
Well, we also unfortunately need the public to kind of help us offset when we're going to get taken advantage of, because the tool will be used by other organizations.
Absolutely.
It is already being used by other organizations. It's probably going to be used. It could be used by pet stores. They could double check their breeders before they hit buy and bring puppies in. Like, we know that it has the capability to make a big difference across the country, but the biggest players in the industry who use it aren't the ones supporting us financially. They're not going to give back. They're not going to give grants or donations. So it is unfortunately on the public to decide its worth and our value and help us keep going.
And we talked about, I remember shortly after I started, when I was talking about like, we need to have some tool like this, we had talked about putting it behind a paywall. Like, this could be something people pay for. And Mindy's like, absolutely not. I am not charging for this. Like, this is what we need to have out into the world. And that's 100% right. We do not want to put any barriers to people getting the data and the facts that we have about what's going on. So we're not going to put a barrier there. But we could, is the point. And if we were another organization, we might have. And we opted not to. And if 5 donations is what we get, 5 donations is what we get. We're still going to do the work. We're still going to keep doing the research. We will keep adding bells and whistles to the search engine. But that was a discussion that this is something we could charge a subscription for. We could, when I have friends that will come to me and say, I want to get a dog, help me. I need to get this certain breed. How do I find a breeder? I could easily be like, $9.95, go download this thing. Like,
but that is the barrier that will stop people, right? Some people would. Others I wouldn't pay $5 to like go,
and there's enough barriers already in place in this industry that drive people to bad breeders. So we're not going to be part of that.
And this is our work anyway.
We'll
so we're going to do it anyway, whether or not we get paid.
And we do get love. I mean, we do get donations and we do get lots of love and support from our community, which is,
we're still here.
We have a
We're
wonderful
still
community.
operating. Yes, yeah.
But that was, I will say, so Bailing Out Benji is a wonderful community that supports us every time we ask, right? Like when we do a post on Facebook, we honestly do. Our microchip clinic was funded when we had that, dog last year who was dumped at our office, who was emaciated. Yeah. Her $10,000 bill was completely funded by our community. So we have wonderful support. But the cool thing about who donated this time was they were all new donors, besides one, I think. We were so excited to see the yes, as they were like new to our donor organization, tracking programs. So,
and that's what really, our community, like you said, they do come through monetarily when we ask. If you're not donating, if you love this map and you're not donating, share it, spread it, get it out to more people. That to me is, I think, we've released it on our Facebook. Our followers are seeing it. Yeah. People in the industry are seeing it. We want it out to the average person who's looking for their next pet before they buy it. So just share it, spread the word.
Yeah. And you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Substack, TikTok, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, all of the podcast apps. So please interact with us. And like Kristen said, it's invaluable sharing. Truly. Share our posts, leave comments telling us you appreciate what you see, because that keeps us going too. And it also helps us know what people want to see more of from us, because we could blow up social media with facts and data all the time. Yes. Yeah. We don't always, because we don't want to inundate the whole, everybody with boring data that Alexis and I are nerding out over, but we could. So give us feedback on what you like to see, and we'll keep doing that. So anyway, thank you all so much for joining us again this week. We will catch you next time. Bye.